At the reading of the will, I watched my parents lean in as the lawyer began speaking. Their eyes weren't clouded by grief, they gleamed with anticipation. It didn't shock me. I'd seen that expression my whole life. Every time my younger brother Ryan entered the room, it was the same. For years, I convinced myself I was imagining it. Maybe I was too sensitive, too self-reliant, too much work to love. I'm so glad you're here. Follow my journey to the very end, and let me know which city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. But when my father interrupted the lawyer and confidently declared they'd be accepting my inheritance on my behalf, only to reroute it directly to Ryan, something inside me cracked wide open. The room froze. All eyes turned toward us. I opened my mouth to speak, but someone beat me to it. My grandmother. And what she revealed next turned everything upside down. I had assumed I'd already lost. But I hadn't realized. Grandma had been paying attention the whole time. And she wasn't going to keep quiet anymore. I used to think favoritism was just part of family life. That every sister sat in silence while her younger brother was handed the world and told he was born for greatness. Growing up, it was clear, Ryan was the golden boy. I was the independent one, the overachiever, the girl who didn't need help. On my 10th birthday, I got a cake baked at home and a quick hug. That same year, Ryan turned 7 and got a backyard carnival, pony rides, magician, the works. I remember watching from the kitchen window, wondering why their smiles never landed on me the way they did on him. School didn't change the script. If I brought home straight A's, it was a quiet nod and we expected that from you, Madison. If Ryan scraped by with B-minuses, it was pizza night and a Facebook post. I joined every club. Debate, science fair, the student paper. I stayed up late, won scholarships, got into a top university, and freelanced to help cover housing costs. I'd call home sometimes, eager to share a win. "That's nice, honey," they'd say. "Did you hear Ryan made varsity?" Meanwhile, Ryan drifted. He changed majors like seasons, took a year off to find himself, totaled one car and got another. I took the bus in the rain to get to my unpaid internship. The truth? It didn't matter how hard I pushed, how much I accomplished, I would never be enough. Not compared to him. Eventually, I stopped sharing my victories. I stopped chasing their validation. But the ache lingered. I thought, maybe when I graduated. Maybe when I bought my first place at 26. Maybe then they'd finally say, "We're proud." Instead, my mom said, "We always knew you'd be fine. You don't need us like Ryan does." And that line stuck. Not as reassurance, more like a sentence. If I didn't need them, then I didn't deserve them. But what cut deeper than what they gave Ryan was what they took from me. My voice. My space. My right to be seen. So when I walked into that will reading, I wasn't there for the money. Not even for acknowledgement. I just wanted one moment of truth. One shred of evidence that said I mattered. But my parents weren't finished rewriting the rules. They were ready to erase me, one last time. And I wasn't going to let them. When I left for college at 18, I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't scared, I was. But I'd learned long ago that showing emotion got you nowhere in our house. Especially not when all the light was already trained on Ryan. While I juggled a double major, 2 part-time jobs, and a hellish commute, Ryan stayed home, taking a gap year. Which mostly looked like sleeping till 2 p.m. and occasionally applying to internships my dad pulled strings to get him. My parents wired him money regularly. "He's still figuring things out," Mom would say, as if that explained the $1,200 monthly transfers. When I asked for help with textbook costs, I got, "You're the responsible one, Maddie. You'll figure it out." So I did. I designed freelance projects. I taught myself how to budget down to the cent. By my 3rd year, I'd saved enough to move off campus, live simply, and graduate debt-free. No shortcuts. No safety nets. Just grit. And still, no one asked how I was doing. They never visited my apartment. They didn't come to my senior showcase. Despite the fact I was one of only 2 students selected for the University Design Expo. But that same weekend, they drove 6 hours to watch Ryan compete in amateur drone racing. I remember standing backstage, portfolio in hand, hoping they'd surprise me. They didn't. I gave my presentation to a crowd of strangers. Later that night, I got a text from Mom. "Sorry we couldn't make it, sweetheart. Ryan's drone got 3rd place. Isn't that great?" I stared at my phone for a long time. That was the moment I stopped chasing their attention. I realized I'd spent years performing for an audience that wasn't even watching. After graduation, I landed a job at a mid-sized financial firm. I worked my way up to lead designer. At 26, I bought a modest 1-bedroom condo. Nothing fancy. But it was mine. Entirely mine. I invited my parents to a small housewarming. They walked in, glanced around, and said, "It's nice. You've always been so self-sufficient." As if that was a compliment. "We don't worry about you." It was never meant as comfort. It was dismissal disguised as praise. Ryan still lived at home, tinkering with yet another startup idea. And of course, my parents were ready to fund it. "He just needs a little help to get it off the ground," Dad said. Once again, I was reminded, Ryan was the ongoing project worth investing in. I was the finished product, completed, shelved, and forgotten. But here's what they didn't realize. All that independence, all those quiet years, had built something far more durable than their approval ever could. It built resolve. So when the time came to finally stand up and claim what was mine, I would be ready. They just never saw it coming. When Grandpa passed, I didn't cry. Not at first. Not because I didn't love him. He was the only one in our family who had ever truly seen me. But grief had never had a seat in the house I grew up in. It had always been private, silent, tucked away. At the funeral, my parents sat beside Ryan, hands resting on his back, murmuring comfort. I sat behind them. Alone. During the service, I gave a quiet eulogy. I talked about how Grandpa sent me handwritten birthday cards every single year, even when he couldn't make it to the party. My mom blinked, confused. She didn't remember. She probably never knew. 2 weeks later, I received a formal envelope in the mail, from the lawyer's office. The will was being read the following Thursday at noon. Grandpa had named all his direct descendants, children and grandchildren. That included me. I didn't know what to expect. But in my chest, there was a fragile flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, he had remembered me in a way they never had. The day before the reading, another envelope arrived. This one wasn't from the lawyer. It was from Grandma. We hadn't spoken much since the funeral. She'd gone quiet, understandably. Inside the envelope was a short note, written in her careful, graceful handwriting. "Madison. I want you to be at the reading. It matters. Your grandfather made sure of something. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Love, Grandma." The word stopped me in my tracks. She'd always had a quiet understanding of me, but rarely stepped into conflict. That note said more than what was written. It told me something was coming. And that I was meant to be there for it. So I took the day off work. Put on my cleanest blazer. Walked into the law office with my head high. My parents glanced at each other when I entered, exchanging a smirk. Ryan gave a small wave. I nodded. We hadn't spoken in months. I sat. The lawyer sorted through papers. The room fell silent. And then it began. The reading started out uneventfully. Grandpa had divided his estate evenly among his children. Then came the grandchildren. Ryan and me. When my name came up with the words equal share, I caught the flicker across my parents' faces. They tensed. Dad cleared his throat. Actually, he began smoothly. We'll be accepting Madison's share on her behalf. She's never been particularly interested in these matters. The lawyer paused. I froze. Mom smiled as if it were perfectly normal. Ryan stayed silent. I opened my mouth to speak. But I didn't have to. Grandma stood up. Her voice calm, steady. I think we should hear the will in full before anyone makes assumptions. And right then, I knew. The ground was shifting. The lawyer gave her a respectful nod and continued. As he read the inheritance allocations, my throat tightened. Then came the confirmation. Madison Claire Whitmore is to receive a share equal to her cousin Ryan. My parents stiffened. Dad spoke again, his voice attempting reason. Let's think about this logically. Madison has a great job, a condo, no debt. Ryan's still trying to find his footing, he has a startup in development. I think we all know Grandpa would want the money where it could make a real difference. He gave a light chuckle, like this was simply common sense. Mom chimed in, soft and syrupy. Madison's never been about money. She's always been generous, never materialistic. I'm sure she'd be happy letting her brother put the funds towards something meaningful. He's the dreamer, after all. Meaningful. Ryan hadn't held down a full-time job in 2 years. My hands curled into fists in my lap. I don't need anyone accepting anything on my behalf, I said, my voice steady. Dad turned to me, his expression cracking. This isn't about you, Maddie. It's about family. About doing what's right. Mom nodded, gently. Don't let pride cloud your judgment. Pride? No. This wasn't about pride. It was about refusing to disappear. I'm not giving up what Grandpa left me, I said firmly. Ryan looked down. Still hadn't said a word. Not even to thank them for this warped performance. The lawyer cleared his throat. Legally speaking, unless Madison signs a waiver or grants power of attorney, her inheritance is solely hers. Dad's jaw clenched. We'll see about that, he muttered. For a second, I thought he might explode. But then he did something worse. He started listing everything he and Mom had ever done for me. Braces. Letting me live at home during college. Helping buy books for 1 semester. Every act of basic parenting, twisted into a tab of emotional debt. You owe us, Maddie, he said. We raised you. Don't forget that. Mom's voice softened. If you loved us, you'd do what's right for the family. I sat frozen. My voice turned to stone. Then I felt a hand on mine. Grandma. She looked at me with eyes that had witnessed everything, years of favoritism, of being overlooked, of wounds left to fester in silence. You don't owe them anything, she whispered. And your grandfather knew it. In that moment, I understood. This wasn't about money. It was about finally claiming space in a family that had spent years pushing me into the background. And I wasn't about to shrink again. After the reading, the fallout was swift. My parents left in a storm of tight mouths and muttered resentment. Ryan followed, quiet as always. I stayed behind, seated long after the room had emptied. Staring at the lawyer's desk. My name still echoing in my mind like a foreign sound. Madison Claire Whitmore, entitled to an equal share of her grandfather's estate. It wasn't special. It was fair. But in my family, fair had always felt like a miracle. By the time I got home, the messages had already started. First from Mom. You embarrassed us in front of everyone. Was it really worth it? Then from Dad. Enjoy your blood money. And finally, from Ryan. I never asked for any of this. That one hit the hardest. I didn't sleep that night. I wandered my apartment in circles, the quiet pressing in on me like a weight. Part of me, the little girl who once begged for approval, still wanted to respond. I'm sorry. Please don't hate me. But the woman I'd become knew better. By day 3, I needed to breathe. Really breathe. I requested a leave from work. Shut off my phone. And did something I hadn't done in years. I drove out to the lake. To the old cabin that used to belong to my grandparents. Where Grandpa first taught me how to fish. Where Grandma used to sneak me extra cookies behind everyone's backs. When I arrived, the door creaked open like it had been waiting for me. Dust blanketed everything. The air was still. But the silence felt restorative, not empty. I lit a fire, curled into a blanket, and finally, let the tears come. Not just for Grandpa. But for all the years I'd spent trying to earn love that should have been freely given. The next morning, I found it. Tucked away in the drawer of the guest bedroom. A sealed envelope with my name on it, scrawled in Grandpa's blocky, unmistakable handwriting. My fingers shook as I opened it. Maddie. If you're reading this, the will has already been read. And I'm guessing your parents are already making a mess of it. I want you to know, I saw it all. Every slight. Every time they told you to be strong while handing Ryan the easy road. You were never invisible to me. This inheritance isn't a reward. It's recognition. I didn't give it to you because you needed it. I gave it to you because you earned it every day you kept going, even when no one noticed. Your voice matters, Maddie. Don't let them take it away again. Love always, Grandpa. I sat on the cabin floor for what felt like hours, clutching that letter like a lifeline. It wasn't about the money. It never was. It was about finally being seen. And now I had a choice. Stay quiet again. Or finally stand up and fight for what had always been mine. I returned from the lake with something I hadn't felt in years, clarity. That letter, folded in my pocket, burned like truth. Not a weapon. A shield. Back in the city, I called Grandma. She picked up on the first ring. Did you find the letter? She asked, as if she already knew. Yes, I whispered. My voice cracked. Thank you. She paused, then said. Your grandfather wanted you to understand, love can be quiet, but it should never be invisible. He saw you, Maddie. Always. Then came the rest. Months before Grandpa passed, my parents had tried to pressure him into changing the will. They told him Ryan needed it more. That I was fine on my own. They even proposed cutting me out entirely, making Ryan the sole beneficiary of the grandchildren's share. Grandpa refused. And not only that, he protected me. With Grandma and his lawyer's help, he added a clause buried deep in the documents. It said that anyone who attempted to manipulate or redirect the terms of the inheritance would automatically forfeit their claim. Ironclad. Legally binding. And now in effect. Grandma explained it gently. Your parents triggered it, Maddie. They pushed too far. They put their own inheritance in jeopardy. The lawyer had already informed them. Their reaction? Fury. They're livid, Grandma said. But there's nothing they can do now. The documents are airtight. Your father's saying you turned us against him. I let out a bitter laugh. Of course. But then she added something that made my breath catch. We're removing your father as executor. The remainder of the estate will be managed by me and the firm. It's what your grandfather wanted. If things got ugly. I sank into a chair, realizing I'd been standing the whole time. For the first time in my life, someone in my family had done more than offer quiet support. They had planned for it. Quietly. Deliberately. And that plan was now the reason I hadn't been erased. Still, the fallout wasn't far behind. That night, my parents showed up at my apartment unannounced. Mom looked worn down, mascara streaked. Dad's face was tight with rage. You planned this, he growled. You manipulated Grandma. You turned your grandfather against us. I didn't flinch. Grandpa made his decisions. You made yours. Mom stepped forward, hands wringing. Don't do this, Maddie. Just sign it over. Ryan needs this. I stood straighter than I ever had. I needed a family for 28 years, I said. And I never got one. They froze. Then Dad let out a cold, bitter laugh. Well then, he said, I hope the money keeps you warm. Because after this, you don't have a family anymore. They walked out. And for the first time in my life, I didn't cry when the door closed behind them. Because something clicked. I hadn't lost a family that night. I'd simply let go of people who were never truly in my corner. And for once, I stood up for the girl they spent years trying to silence. The days that followed were thick with quiet. No more angry texts. No calls. Not even one of Mom's guilt-laced emails about how sad it was to see her daughter so blinded by greed. Nothing. But I wasn't alone. Grandma called every day. My friends checked in. And then one afternoon, just as I was about to head out for groceries, there was a knock at the door. It was Ryan. I stared through the peephole for a full minute. He looked anxious, eyes darting, hands stuffed into his hoodie pockets. I opened the door. Can we talk? He asked softly. I didn't respond. Just stepped aside and let him in. He didn't sit. Just stood awkwardly in the middle of the room, like he wasn't sure he was allowed to belong there. I didn't know they were going to do that, he finally said, referring to the will reading. I never asked for any of it. But you didn't stop them either, I replied. My voice calm. Matter of fact. He winced. I know. And I should have. Silence settled between us. Then, slowly, he pulled something out from his jacket, a folded letter. The same stationery Grandpa had used. Grandma gave me this later, he said. Said he wanted me to have it once she realized I was falling apart. He handed it to me. He wrote me one too, Ryan said, voice quiet. It wasn't warm like yours. But it was honest. He met my eyes. He said he saw what our parents did to both of us. That letting them mold me into their legacy stripped me of the chance to become myself. I didn't say anything. Not yet. He told me to stop hiding behind them. To stop waiting for someone else to clean up my messes. That it was time to grow up, own what I'd done, and fix what I could. I swallowed hard. I'm sorry, Maddie, Ryan said, finally looking at me, really looking. Not just for the inheritance. For everything. For not speaking up. For letting them treat you like a second thought while I coasted. I always knew it wasn't fair. But pretending was easier than standing up to them. And there it was. The words I never thought I'd hear. Not a total repair. But the beginning of something honest. We talked for hours. About birthdays I spent alone. About the science fair where they never showed. The theater showcase they skipped. And how Ryan was always told he was exceptional. While I was told I was strong enough to figure it out alone. Then he said something I didn't expect. Being the favorite came with its own cage, he admitted. I was terrified to fail. Every time I messed up, they covered it. Paid someone. Fixed it. But I never learned how to stand on my own. He glanced down. I'm 25. I've never earned a damn thing. But you built your life piece by piece. I envy that. We sat in a quiet that felt different now. Not uncomfortable, just full. Then Ryan said something that changed the air between us. I'm going back to school. I blinked. What? With my part of the inheritance, he said. I'm enrolling at the community college. Starting with software design. Maybe finance after that. I want to build something real, for once. I didn't cry. But I did smile. Because that wasn't just a plan. It was a crack in the old foundation. I think Grandpa would be proud, I said. Ryan nodded. I know he would. And for the first time since we were kids, we hugged. Not out of habit. But out of something real. Something earned. It's been 6 months since the will reading. My parents still won't speak to me. They've cut Ryan off, too. Blaming me for turning their golden boy against them. He says it hurts. But also, he feels lighter. Like he can finally exhale. As for me, I've stopped chasing their approval. Stopped waiting for scraps. Instead, I've started building something new. I used part of the inheritance to launch a mentorship fund for young women in underrepresented fields, girls like me who were told to be quiet while their brothers were celebrated. I named it after Grandpa. I also started therapy again. Healing is messy. Non-linear. But I'm learning to separate who I am from who I was told to be. And Ryan? He's thriving in school. He sends me screenshots of his grades, his projects. Sometimes I tease him. So, now you're the nerd in the family? He laughs every time. We started a new tradition, sibling Sundays. Once a month. No parents. No phones. Just us, pancakes, walks, long talks. Trying to grow something that never got a real chance before. And Grandma? She's our compass. She always tells us. You two are rewriting the story. Don't stop now. And she's right. Because family isn't just blood. It's choice. It's boundaries. It's truth. For years, I thought love meant staying small. Shrinking to keep the peace. Giving up my space so someone else could shine. Not anymore. I didn't just inherit money. I inherited my voice. And I intend to use it.